Welcome back, everybody, to Business Leaders here on KMPH FOX26. Matthew Morris, Vice President, General Manager of KMPH FOX26. Thank you for being on the first edition of the show right here.
My pleasure. I'm glad it's here, like I said. So, yeah, my pleasure.
You had to travel far.
Yes, my office is about 30 yards that way. But there are curves and turns.
Curves, but you found your way here.
I did.
You found your way here. One of the things that I mentioned before the break is a thing that I do all the time is have you share something about yourself that maybe somebody didn't know that about you. They want to come up and shake your hand and say, hey, bump elbows, fist, whatever we do today. Whatever's acceptable. And say, I don't know about, and create a connection. And I'll tell you why I did that. Years ago on the radio, I was interviewing somebody and had him share a story of he was a bag boy in Seattle, and it happened to be a grocery store where the president of a local bank here in Fresno was also a bag boy around that same time. And they ended up connecting over that, him hearing the story and saying, hey, I was a bag boy around that same time. They started to talk about managers and people they knew there, and next thing you know, he's now working for the bank as the vice president, and I think the gentleman's still there today. Cool. And it was from a story years ago, and it was just for sharing an experience. That was his very first job, and he learned a lot, and that's what he shared. So always have somebody share something. So before we wrap up, I'll give you a little time still to think. Maybe there's something you want to share.
Just something that always comes to mind for me, because it's, if you know me, you know this is possible, but if you don't, then it's kind of different. I have an 8-year-old daughter who is the best, my world, my everything, and we like to do TikTok videos together. So you can be finding us on the weekends doing the latest TikTok trends. Yes, I know that's different.
Do you guys set the trends yourself?
She does. I just do what she tells me to do, and she's very picky about the video. If they're not perfect, she will not post the video. 8 years old, and she will not. So I'm thinking she's a future editor or maybe even social media influencer.
Yeah, I don't know. Hey, maybe. I mean, she
can take care of Dad when she gets older.
She was already doing it. I had the same with my daughters, and I'll have in the next week or two, I'll have my daughter on here, Chloe Cardoza. Started Hummus Republic, and my daughters all, me being in business, were always doing something. They were at the 40 Under 40 event, registering people. One was a photographer in the business of professional wrestling with Lucha Extreme, the company I own. My daughter was a stage manager at 8 years old, backstage.
Oh, so we give my daughter a job then.
That's right. Yeah, we can put her.
Exactly.
So they always had that, I think, work ethic, and they knew it was just time to do it. We just had to get it done. So it's cool that she's seeing.
We have fun with that. I'm trying to make her a Yankee fan. That's another thing about me. I'm a diehard New York Yankee fan. I watch almost every game possible and try to go as much as possible.
Big baseball fan in general, right?
Big baseball fan in general. Big baseball. But yeah, always been a Yankee fan. My family's all from New York. I grew up here, but my dad and grandfather had Yankee tickets always growing up. So every time we'd go back to see the family, then we'd always go to games. When they would go to Oakland, we'd go to games. So yeah.
Who was your favorite back then when you were going to games?
Donnie Baseball.
Don Mattingly.
Like good old number 23.
Nice. How old were you then when you were going to those games?
Gosh, I started off, I must have been 5.
5 years old?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep.
There's nothing like Yankee Stadium. It's cool.
Old and new. I've been to both.
Oh, you've been to both? Very cool. I think what's cool about New York, too, when you're getting everybody going to the Yankees just before a game and coming in the city, that never sleeps.
Get on the train.
It's just a cool experience.
It is.
To go to a Yankee
energy
game.
level is hard to explain and hard to duplicate. The Manhattan as a whole is that way, but
I mean they're diehard with everything.
But that's a Grizzlies game too. The energy at the Grizzlies games. Awesome. Especially with people who have been, at home for so long now, you go out to these games and it's just people are happy to be out and at the games. So you do get a great vibe. It doesn't just have to be taco truck throwdown or 4th of July. It's people just happy to be out at baseball games in Fresno.
You as a baseball fan, I know we talked about that. Fresno Grizzlies said, can we get in there and produce some games and get them on television? And I know you're a fan of the game, but also at the same time, it's local sports on television, which is something that a lot of us that living here in Fresno, we felt accustomed to. You'd watch those big games on TV, and you're bringing that back, and you're doing more of that. And the Fresno Grizzlies have been a great partner. I'm producing the shows with you guys, and it's just really amazing watching people come back out. And I believe viewership's got to be really well, because I constantly hear from people saying, hey, I saw the broadcast, you know. So it's
Exactly.
it's getting better and better. And I love the local sports having an opportunity with Friday Night Rivals and everything you're doing for Central California, bringing those sports.
We try to be the local sports leader, not just in our newscast, but also in how we broadcast our sports. Growing up as a kid here, you know, FOX26 was the home of Fresno State Bulldogs, basketball and football. You know, then of course that was before cable networks, and all of them got to take all their games and every, you know, network for everything. So it's not like that, unfortunately, anymore. But you know, whenever there's opportunity to be able to broadcast local, we'd really like to be at the forefront of that.
And bring that, and it's cool to see, you know, and I love being a part of that, and I appreciate you giving us the opportunity to do that.
Yeah, happy to.
What's on the horizon? What's next? KMPH, FOX26,
Gosh,
either
what's
the CW.
next?
What's next? What's I know coming out of the pandemic and operating a little differently, we're sort of getting up to that ramp up stage, but what's coming up?
I just think you're going to see a lot more local content that's going to be provided, even with stuff like this show. I think this is something that's unique that nobody else really has. More local sports. We're going to try to, you know, bid on anything that we can get, because we really do want to be the leader in news and sports for the Valley.
Absolutely.
Bring as much as we can to people. If the viewership's there and, you know, they have a following, we'll see what we can do. You're also going to see a lot of social media. If you don't follow us, make sure you follow us on social media, because it's a 24-hour news cycle nowadays. It's not, you know, wait for the news at 10. By the time, if we waited to post a story at 10 o'clock, you already know about it because you've read about it. So please make sure you're following our pages, make sure you're following our anchors pages, because they're constantly posting stories and updates on different things. So the 24-hour news cycle is really going to grow over the next 6 months, year, and beyond.
Thank you for being my first guest. It's all the time we have.
Yep.
Thank you for joining us here on Business Leaders. We'll see you next week, Tuesday at 11 a.m. right here on KMPH, FOX26.